Hello, everyone. This is Carrie Desberg, Chief Marketing Officer for ImPartner. Welcome to our Padanar series, Lessons from the Edge. It's one of the favorite things that I get to do is talk to customers and talk to channel thought leaders about what's happening in their roles, what's happening on the edge of the conversation with the channel, and really learn from each other. And the conversation today is one that is absolutely a hot ticket. Almost every prospect that comes in is challenged with one thing. How do I get the tech I want? In today's market, right, everybody is really essentially a technology company, and they've got to worry about their tech stack. And every department is competing for that. The channel is, marketing is, sales is, HR is. And, in the channel and in marketing, right, as a marketer, the best tech stack wins, the best digital hunter wins, and the best digital experience for your partners wins. And yet it's not easy. And so today it's my pleasure to introduce Colleen Matthews. She is a multi-time customer of InPartner with No Name Security. Welcome, Colleen. So excited to have you here.
Great, thanks for having me.
Well, you're the perfect person to do this conversation because to have this conversation with because you've done it and you've done it and you've done it. And I think you have some secret sauce, right? It's hard to manage a channel. Automation is key. And you know how to get what you need to run your channel. And I break this conversation to two. And first and foremost, when I watch you work your way through the organization, work your way through the buying process, I always see you start with the philosophy of what the business needs. Can you start there and talk about how you think about it, and that's how you get your framework to put together your business case?
Sure, I think it's a great question. Thanks, Carrie. And part of it is, you know, fundamentally start with your strategy and what is your organization doing holistically? Are you going into different, routes to market globally, different theaters? So thinking as to, where are you focused today? Where are you going to be in the near term? Where are you going to be down the line, even opportunistically, just to give you a little bit of that context as you're having these conversations. And I think you and I have talked about it before, but I almost look at it as building a store essentially. And it's about getting that, first of all, from a tech standpoint, getting proper real estate, be in the right spot. So if you put the right tech in, it will grow with you, whether you're building that corner store or a Safeway or a Costco. It's so critical to me that you get that real estate and you start putting in the proper infrastructure up front and thinking about the partner experience. So really just bridging what traditionally has been disparate technologies or different systems to think through three things. How are we communicating partner profitability to our partners? Are we creating ease of experience and operations for them? And then how are we ensuring that we're providing awareness and demand and working with them to do so, right? So sell to, sell through, sell with, everything from co-brand, et cetera.
What's interesting and impressive to me, Colleen, is how ferocious really you are in thinking about the technology that you need, not only when you're starting out, but where you see the company scaling. You're always very specific about that. Why is the tech so important from the get-go? And how do you think about that in a short-term and a long-term time period?
Um, Part of it is you can't scale without the proper tech, and you manual processes break down at a certain point when there are humans involved. So you need that technology. It's so foundational and fundamental to scaling the organization and scaling your business. And then from there, again, I like to think about not only what are the use cases and challenges we have today, but what could we have? What's down the line? What are opportunistic, challenges or what are just features that we may want to provide at a certain point, even a partner segment. And from there, it's just thinking about, frankly, disruption of the partner experience. If you have partners on a platform, they're used to that environment, and it's disruptive to then make that shift. And there's a lot that goes along with that. There's communications to them, there's the interim period, there's training. Frankly, it's on the back end, your IT teams. There are a lot of different organizations that are involved in that shift. So if you can future-proof yourself and think about the technology that's really going to set you up for success, not only today, but down the line. And part of what I've been so impressed with InPartner is the modularity of the platform. So, I've been fortunate in startups that we've been able to to pay for and create an environment that worked for us, knowing that around the corner when we start getting into co-branding and social on demand and other aspects, I can very easily turn that functionality on and provide that to partners so that, again, it's a seamless experience, but yet we're creating more value for those partners.
I love that. We definitely want to be that technology that allows companies to, that we help them future proof. So I love the fact that you feel that way. We absolutely are focused on that. Colleen, one of the things I see you do so well as I watch you come through the purchase decision is align all the stakeholders in your company. How do you think about that? Why do you do that? And what are the keys to success with the various groups that you typically talk to in this kind of a purchase decision?
Sure. Well, first of all, PRM touches so many different organizations, as you mentioned. So I want to engage those stakeholders early to talk about the project and my vision and why this is critical to the success of, our partner ecosystem and our partner program. And then from there, I also like to approach it, frankly, very empathetically, meaning if I'm in their shoes, what does this mean to my business and what are the dependencies that I need to be mindful of? How is that going to affect me? How is it also going to bring positive, change or functionality to my role? And so starting there, I often have conversations with different individual stakeholders, everyone from, the CFO talking about, it could be liability. It could be looking at things like compliance and audit. If we're doing MDF, ensuring that we've got proof of performance or legal. You could be accepting terms, especially with different privacy policies globally. Or, if you're talking to a CMO, everything from MDF, which we just talked about, to lead management, social on demand. Again, there are aspects that we may want to provide today, and as we grow and have teams to build out and properly support, even stating down the line, like, don't worry because we're already thinking about what could be coming and how we'll support that. And that gives people, I think, assurance just to know this does make sense. We're putting in a technology that will grow with us, as we talked about, in part so that, we're setting ourselves up for success. And when you get to the CRO too, and you look at a lot of the statistics, we're talking about partner experience number one, but partner initiated business, deal registration. I mean, even just some of the fundamental pieces. So everyone understands holistically how this is going to positively affect their organization, as well as dependencies to say, here's where I will need your help and here's what it will mean. I think some peers, it can get a little tricky on maybe the IT or systems integration and Salesforce piece. But one thing that's worked out very favorably for me, and I've seen, in partner very thoughtfully provide in recent packages is I work with implementation consultants because ideally you want to put the technology in and then it's something that grows with you. So frankly, I'm not an expert in implementation per se. I can architect the strategy and work with the organization to ensure that it's fulfilling needs. But then I partner with specialists to put that technology in. And that actually helps overcome a lot of that IT challenge because then typically my counterparts understand that there are people who know and have, facilitated these decisions and platforms for other organizations, and then they understand all of what is required on their end. It tends to work very seamlessly and smoothly.
You mentioned the stakeholder group IT, right? Broad group CIOs, all sorts of IT operations folks. And, a lot of them are working with systems that they know their CRM. And very often those CRMs can have a functionality that could take care of some of the PRM functionality. How do you, and they're comfortable with that, right? And here you are asking for another technology. How do you inspire confidence with them? How do you work through that and get what you think is a better solution?
I mean, I think it's important when you're making a decision to look at options, right? And have those conversations. And I also think that's part of getting that alignment, support, and bridging the conversation between different stakeholders. But when I look at it, I think we have to ask ourselves, what are we trying to solve for at the end of the day? Are we trying to just expand some of the technology we have? And in doing so, what is the experience for the partner, for our internal stakeholders, such as our channel organization and others? And that's one thing to look at. And to your point, when we look at something that's purpose-built, then it's now we're creating a completely different experience. And it is architected, as you mentioned, specifically for the channel environment. And then from there, again, I think you think through different levels of functionality that you may grow into. If you don't, what happens is you may extend that functionality and then another system and another system. And I've been in those environments where you have all these disparate technologies. And unfortunately, and there are, you can SSO these different technologies together, but the experience isn't as cohesive as a platform that's specifically built to create that environment and experience for the channel.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. An SSO is maybe handshake, but it's not an integration for sure. It's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the conversations that we've had and how you think about this, I always hear you start with PRM. And for many prospects, when we're having the conversation, they're like, well, where do I start? Why is it you start with PRM? Why do you think that's so important?
Carrie, because of the modularity of the platform, frankly, I have peers that start with a piece of technology, they may add another piece of technology, and they have multiple systems. Whereas when you start with PRM, that integration of all of these systems into one, it's foundational, frankly, to your ability to grow and scale. And it really sets you up so that when you want to provide different functionality down the line, or should your strategy change, if you want to do proper segmentation, if you only want to market to a specific, theater, for instance, or it just gives you a lot of versatility and functionality that will allow you to grow and change because frankly, your strategy is going to grow and change. Your organization is going to grow and change. Your partners are growing and changing. Everything around us continues to evolve. But if you don't have that foundational technology, it becomes increasingly more difficult. And you're looking at additional solutions to Band-Aid, for instance, a challenge or triage something in the moment when you could have a solution that will give you the agility you need over the course of time.
Cool. No, I love that lesson. And I will tell you, the people that we see grow and scale most quickly think about it exactly that way. So if I were to summarize your key points, Colleen, I think I hear you really need to start with that strategy. What are you short term? What are you going to be long term? And what technology do you need to grow into it? Because it's going to be too disruptive to change if you do it later.
Yeah.
Get your stakeholders aligned and take care of the care and feeding of each one of your stakeholders from the CFO to the CIO to make sure that you're inspiring confidence in the need for the business, how you're going to drive the business, how it's going to help you scale, and how it's going to be well integrated with the other solutions that your company has. And then lastly, just really emphasizing how I hear you say you need to start with PRM as a foundational layer that allows you to build and scale from there. Those are the three key lessons that I take away from you. Did I summarize you well?
Yeah, and I think just knowing things are going to change and that's okay. But again, if you start with something that is setting you up for success, regardless of what happens and regardless of how business shifts, look at COVID and the pandemic, for instance, right? It just provides you with the ability to pivot quickly. And with COVID, that's a great example of being able to do a content audit, from a CMS standpoint, understanding all of what is in there and do you have the right pieces, again, for different segments or for different needs. So yeah, I love the flexibility, the agility, but more than anything, I think it's so critical to put that technology into properly scale and also just think about not only today, near term potential use cases, but really longer term. And how is something going to grow and change with you? And one thing I've also loved, frankly, Carrie, about your organization is the partnership, right? And you know that we've also invested at an early state into some of the changes that you've made in your platform. But with that, it's just provided us a tremendous partnership. And along the way, different changes that we've made, and Partner has always stood by and been a tremendous business partner to me. So thank you, Carrie, for that. And then also thank you for having me.
Oh, it's really my pleasure. I say all the time that in 2022, the best digital hunter wins. And the people I see in your role who really have a superpower now are the people who can lead their organization through a digital transformation. So you are absolutely a transformer. I love the lessons that you shared today. Thank you so much for being a guest on Lessons from the Edge, and look forward to continuing to work with you, Colleen, and No Name Security. You guys, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.